morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining us from across Africa and beyond. Welcome to today's Lubzin webinar, where we dive into this topic that sits at the heart of our industrial reliability and operational excellence, lubrication solution for Africa's heavy industries. My name is Dr. James Wakiru, and I'll be your moderator for this session. Today, we are honored to host Mr. Richard Mugambi, the Lubricants Technical and Commercial Lead for Africa at LAAPSA. Richard brings deep experience across the lubricants value chain, technical support, product development, commercial strategy, of course, and industry standards that he's been involved in. His insights, of course, cuts across sugar, cement, mining, and other manufacturing sectors, making him the perfect guide for today's conversation. Richard, thank you for being with us and welcome. Maybe I'll just start by giving you a moment to introduce yourself and maybe just give us where you are briefly.
Thank you very much, James, for having me. It's a pleasure. I've been a keen follower, member of your, or rather, I follow a lot what Lubzin does, and I benefit greatly from the many people that you involve in your interviews and the write-ups that you do on a quarterly basis. So, thank you for having me today. Like you rightly said, my name is Richard Mugambi. I am an engineer by training, family man, of course. Been in this industry for more than 20 years now. Started this in the early 2000s, where I started working at Caterpillar, really as a service engineer. So I was involved in work on hands-on experience in repairs and maintenance of equipment, heavy equipment. And it's well at that in that place that I developed interest in lubrication and sought to work in an oil company. And so later I joined Chevron, where I worked for about 4 years before joining Gulf Energy, that I worked for most of the years. Then towards 2020, moved to Rubis briefly, and now for the last, say, about 6 years, I've been working with LAAPSA, supporting their growth in Africa. So briefly, that is who I am, and yeah, I'm grateful to be here to talk about lubricating heavy industries in Africa. Thank you, James.
Thank you. Let's bring our ground into our audience. From your vantage point as LAAPSA, how would you describe the current lubrication landscape across Africa's heavy industries?
James, I'm sure when you read the world economic outlook, Africa is the second growth spot in terms of growth rate. Currently, we are projected as a continent to grow, especially sub-Saharan Africa. We are projected to grow at slightly above 4% by different economic houses. And so Africa, when you look at that growth and what is driving that growth, there are many sectors, but one of them is mining and manufacturing. Of course, manufacturing, because the population in our continent is quite significant. While we are subdivided into different countries, when you combine that population, it's significant, about 1.2, 1.3 billion people, and that is a driver, that is an attraction to investors to develop and to put up plants here in Africa. Mining, again, we are very rich in minerals, and as the world continues to develop, as resources in other continents continue to be depleted, there is focus in Africa, and so there is a lot of interest. There's a lot of a lot of organizations that are coming into this extractive sector of the different countries in Africa, and so with these industries, these factories coming up, then the need for lubrication automatically grows. And when we talk about heavy industries, James, from a lubrication point of view, I mean, you look at the extent to which the very outlier, so to speak, kind of lubricants are used. I mean, you're talking about heavy viscosity oils. You're talking about greases that have very high levels of metallic additives, and so you find the extent for demand for these kind of products in Africa is growing, and therefore the need to to be able to meet these requirements. That's how we find our space. That's how we find our footing in Africa, just to be able to meet the demand, and also to be able to to get the products that are needed by these different organizations, these different customers, are available within reach, so that then they don't just use whatever is available just to to keep operations running, but then they get to use what is right lubricant, and we make it available to them. So these economic activities are what is pushing, what is driving the demand for lubricants for heavy industries in Africa, James.
Thanks so much. I think you've also covered basically the harsh conditions, the various conditions that we operate in Africa that are driving, a bit differently and uniquely the demand of our lubrications. Excellent. So with that foundation, let's now move to some sectors themselves, because each industry has its own story. It has its own pain points and its own opportunities. So we could start maybe with the sugar industry. Let's start with sugar, an industry that is both a seasonal and mechanically intense. Sugar mills, of course, face high moisture, shock loads, and intense seasonal operations. So what lubrication challenges do you see most frequently in this sector?
Great. Thanks again, James. Sugar, yes, sugar in Africa is a key, is a major industry. I think almost all countries, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, have a factory or two, and some countries have quite a number. I mean, talking of tens of sugar factories. And yes, you rightly said they are cyclical because they largely depend on weather. Quite a number of countries, really, their operations are, especially the farm operations, are rain dependent, and so they are cyclical to the extent that I mean, when you have rains not sufficient, sometimes factories have to close just because of insufficient cane. But also there are other countries that have their operations that are irrigated, and so they are able to control their operations. Now, from a heavy industry point of view, sugar factories fit this because of the kind of equipment they have, the kind and the number of equipment that require very specialized lubrication. I mean, when you look at the kind of, say, drives, the gearboxes that you find in these factories, the kind of open gears that you find in these factories, they are heavy in nature and they demand special lubrication. Now, in particular, to answer your question, James, when you ask the kind of challenges that we find in the sugar industry, two areas come to mind. That is the lubrication of the mill bearings and the lubrication of the mill pinions. Now, mill bearings, largely in many operations, the kind of lubrication regime that you find in these areas is what you call loss lubrication kind of a system where you pump in your lubricant, does the lubrication on the specific area, and then the lubricant drains to a collection point, and so there is no sump, so that you have constant lubricant being supplied to that area. So with that kind of you know type of lubrication, then the kind of lubricant that you use must be very specialized, so that then you one are not pumping continuously to lubricate that point, and secondly, then the lubricant must have the right properties to be able to protect those bearings, and thirdly, I mean, because of where the assets sit within the system of the plant, is that if you have, say, a failure of, say, bearing in that particular area, then the consequences or the cost that the organization will face in terms of downtime are very significant. So there is constantly, the technical teams, the engineers in these plants are constantly, looking for solutions that will be able to guarantee the continuous operations of their plants, particularly in this area of the factory. And I think this is where this has been our forte. This is where we've been able to sort and to provide solutions to many sugar factories, because one, you will need a lubricant that is, in terms of viscosity, load bearing capacity, withstanding high temperatures. This is what they need, and we've been able to, to provide very special lubricants for lubrication of the mill bearings, driving the reduction of the quantity of lubricant that is used, but most importantly, being able to guarantee availability of the plant for a long period of time. And of course, as a result, I mean, you have improved productivity. The other area, of course, is your mill pinions, where, because of the nature, I mean, the almost like practice in many factories, the lubrication, I mean, the kind of lubrication regime that you find here is, you say, bath lubrication. um, but also because of the nature of the plants, I mean, they have to constantly, they have to clean the places constantly. So you have a lot of water ingress. There's let's say contamination, there's mixing of lubricant and water and juices, and this tends to deteriorate the lubricant. So there's constantly need for, special kind of lubricant that is able to manage this kind of environment while delivering better and adequate lubrication of the male pinions. So these are some of the challenges that we find in the sugar industry, and we are constantly helping these plants to be able to address these challenges, James.
Thanks. And maybe now we go to the cement industry. Yeah, cement plants, of course, are a different beast altogether. A lot of heat, dust, and continuous operation expected. So, what kind of lubricant strategies or lubrication strategies are essential for the kilns, the mills, and the gearboxes in a cement plant?
Again, James, just like sugar, cement is another. It's another uh, heavy industry, really. I mean, when you look at just the same thing. I mean, you have very big gearboxes. You have kilns. I mean, very highly, heavily loaded kilns. You have your ball mills. You have your grinders. These are very highly loaded. I mean, working in very dusty environments. Temperatures are extremely high, and so, I mean, you have open gears that will require specialized open gear lubricants, that have either high viscosities, that have solid additives, just to offer that extra protection on the gear surfaces. You have bearings that operate at very high temperatures. I mean, you need say calcium sulfonate greases just to be able to offer a better and higher protection on those bearings. You have your, like you rightly saying, your kiln that is running on your gut gear that is exposed to high temperatures, very high loads. So depending on what you find, I mean, there are plants that will do bath lubrication. There are others that you use, centralized lubrication systems. So for either, there are solutions that will be employed just again to offer protection, to offer reliability of your plant, because I mean, at the end of the day, the engineers, the production team need these assets available available for production, just to optimize their production. So yes, you have your synthetic gear oils. If it's the high viscosity ones, the ISO VG 1000, 1500, depending on the different capacities of equipment at the different factories.
What are the key quick wins you could talk of in a cement plant? Is it synthetics? Is it a really big value proposition?
Oh yes, in terms of products, again, because of the environment where they operate, the sensitivities of those equipment. I mean, if you take your, say, your grinding mill, um, I mean, it's the heart. It's the heart of the plant. So you don't want to compromise on the life of that equipment. So the choice of synthetics, and it makes economic sense, just for that extra protection. Because if in case of loss of the equipment, the cost to the organization are crazy. I mean, are extremely high. So you want to be sure, especially where lubrication is concerned, it's not your weak point. And so synthetics for such areas would be a go-to kind of a solution. I mean, when you look at your high temperature exposed bearings, again, um and create and create cooler. I mean, if that conveyor fails, you have trouble. So again, for those kind of bearings that are exposed to those high temperatures, then you choose special greases for lubrication of such areas. So yes, slightly high in terms of cost per liter, but the overall cost of lubrication is reduced, and plant availability is assured for the engineers.
Okay, thanks. And let's look at mining. And mining pushes equipment to the edge. A lot of shock loads, there's a lot of contamination, and of course, long hours of operation. What innovations or best practices are improving lubrication reliability in the mining operations?
Good. Thanks, James. Yes, like you rightly said, I mean, typical mines would have, say, two sets of operations. There's what you find at the fields where the raw materials is being extracted. So you have all manner of mobile equipment in those areas. Then of course, once the mining has happened, there's transportation of the raw material to the processing plants. And so because the I mean, if you're looking at the fields, the fields are tough, rough. Um, their environments are very, very difficult. So I mean, in terms of operations, you would want to be sure that you are not caught off guard. So things like condition oil monitoring becomes very, very important, so that you're constantly on top of your equipment. You want to know what is happening in there, so that then your equipment is available when you need it. So that, I mean, if you find there are problems that are starting to develop, then you are able to address them in times. to avoid instances where you have equipment failure, and that would have an direct impact on your operations. The same thing in your processing plant. I mean, you have to constantly keep an eye on your equipment, and things like condition oil monitoring becomes very, very important. Other controls, I mean, other monitoring tools would also come in. I mean, they are watching temperatures of your gearboxes becomes key, so that, I mean, in case there are spikes, then you are able to address problems as they arise. And of course, the other thing is, using higher performance lubricants, just to be sure that your assets are available when you need them. So things like synthetic gear oils, um, high viscosity open gear lubricants would have application in some of these operations. And so, I mean, the drive for the managers would be, to go for the best, just to ensure that your assets, your equipments are available when you need them.
Awesome. I think we can look at, in general, when you look at the manufacturing sector, general manufacturing, I think the story is often about now consistency and discipline, because there's a lot of machines, there's a lot of different requirements. So, what kind of lubrication mistakes or oversights do you see most often in the manufacturing plants?
Good question. I mean, some as basic as very basic mistakes around contamination. Cross contamination, if I may put it that way, where you find, your bucket for, topping up, say, your gearbox. A technician will use one can to top up different systems. I mean, you have your gear oils. So when they are topping up the gearbox, they will use this can. When they are topping the hydraulic system, they will use the same can. When they are topping up their compressors, they will use the same can. So cross contamination is a very common mistake that we find, and the consequences are severe. The other thing is, of course, when it comes to greases, I mean, mixing of greases. So today you're using, this calcium grease. Next day you come and, you're applying a different, kind of a grease without necessarily cleaning out the previous one. And again, a bit of ignorance, but then the consequences are severe. The other thing is, someone, sometimes you have equipment failure. So someone goes into just replacing the parts that are failed. Um, you replace, you don't change, you've not investigated to find out what caused the failure. So you find someone going, you put in a new part. Within no time, again, you have a failure. And so root cause analysis is not as common as it ought to be, considering its benefits. Things like training. I mean, the personnel, especially the technicians who are involved in maintenance, do not get regular training, just for them to appreciate their contribution in the overall, I mean, what their contribution is to making the plant available, and what it means when the plant is available in terms of, do- dollar rate. I mean, so training and continuous training, especially where lubrication is concerned, for the lower cadre of the maintenance team. So wrong application. I mean, you find um, you know products. Someone would use a product really that is not the right product in a given equipment, and of course the consequences will be either failure, and failures. It's costly. So these are some of the things that we see. Of course, the other thing is where the drive, where the focus is on the price, the cost of the lubricant per se, and not necessarily what it means. I mean, looking at the total cost of lubrication as a focus area for technical teams. And yeah, I mean, these are some of the common mistakes, common problems that we face. But I mean, as you talk to the technical teams, they appreciate the need to do things differently.
Oh, that's great insights. Now let's shift gears and talk about the future, technology, digitalization, and the evolution of lubricant chemistry. So digital tools are reshaping maintenance across the continent. So how is digitalization, like using the IoT sensors, oil analysis, predictive maintenance, how is this changing the lubrication strategies in Africa's heavy industries?
Um, data is the is a driver, and of course, this is being driven by things like environmental conservation, um, you know, focus on circular economy, and things like that. So there is drive towards either extending lubrication drain intervals. And so there's this collection of data, continuous testing, just to be sure that you have spent the most of your lubricant, so that then you don't just dispose lubricant when it's not completely it's not been optimized in terms of utilization. So there is drive towards long drain intervals, and of course that is feeding back into the manufacturers, so that then they're able to deliver products that are able to to grant or to deliver this requirement. Of course, things environment sensitivities. I mean, environmental conservation is driving the narrative towards things, products like biodegradable lubricants.
Are African industries ready for a wider adoption of high performance synthetics and environmentally friendly lubricants?
James, I would say yes, yes, but there is a lot of engagement with plant managers, with engineers, just to appreciate their contribution to protecting the environment, and of course the benefits that come thereof. I mean, take for instance a sugar factory. If if you look at the effluent treatment plants, I mean, they face a lot of challenges. So, and I mean, for them being agricultural industries, environmental protection becomes very key for them, because if whatever they generate from the factories get into the environment, and the products are not say biodegradable, then they don't decompose, then they have very negative consequences to the environment. So there's, I mean, there's awareness coming up. There's a lot of training from both from the industry to these sectors. And yeah, sometimes you hear, I mean, there are inquiries about products. I mean, if these solutions are available with us, and I can say that the opportunities are there. The organizations and companies are embracing these technologies. Of course, drive for sustained and extended plant availability. So high desire and drive for high performance lubricants is there, and we are seeing demand. So yes, I mean, I think the straight answer to your question, James, is yes. That is happening in Africa.
Great. Let's shift a bit and let's hear more about LAAPSA. Maybe you could introduce to us who LAAPSA is, what you deal with, and how we could reach out to LAAPSA. Thanks.
So maybe James, I can share my screen. LAAPSA is is a South American company. I mean, the company exclusively does deals in specialized lubricants, very very niche, high performance lubricants, with an array of certifications, and we manufacture in Argentina, but supply to more than 40 countries globally, and that's where we this is where we get our products, our lubricants, and so we cover all continents. I mean, why then would one choose our lubricants? So we are technology and performance driven. I mean, continuously um, supporting the heavy industries in Africa and other very specialized industries like say food industries. We we are driven by sustainability, so that then it's not just lubrication, but also there is there's focus on environment, so that then the kind of lubricants that we manufacture, they are also they are biodegradable, most of them, and so we have environmental conservation behind the kind of formulations that we have. The other very key, and especially in Africa, technical support is critical. So for us to be able to walk this journey with clients, especially in Africa, we have developed partnerships, but also we are available to plants, so that we are able to work with them the journey, just to help them understand and appreciate the kind of technologies that we have, and and of course getting the products available to them. I mean, what we previously noted is that, yes, we go to a place like, say, a place like Malawi, for instance. You have a factory that requires this product, but they're not available. So we work in such a way that our products are available locally, so that you don't need to import large consignments for yourselves. We've partnered with different organizations, and especially in Africa, we have a standing relationship with Rubis, and so any place where there's Rubis or its partner, then you are able to access our lubricants. So people can reach out. I mean, anyone listening can reach out, and we can be able to engage on how we can be of support to them. In terms of contacts, you can reach us either online on www.lapsan.com, or you can reach out to me on my phone, on my email down there, and we can get to engage. James.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So let's look a bit now on the commercial realities shaping the lubrication or lubricants ecosystem. Looking at sustainability and the future outlook, how can lubrication contribute to energy efficiency and carbon reduction in the heavy industries?
Thank you. Now these I mean, the generation, the volumes of lubricant that are generated and disposed, those would have effect on your would have an effect on the environment. Now the drive is, like I mentioned earlier in the conversation, is just to, one, extend drain intervals, so that then the volume of lubricant, of used oil that is generated, is reduced. That's one. Secondly, is being able to employ or shift to biodegradable lubricants. These are lubricants that will be that will decompose once they are either released to the environment, and thereby being safe to the environment in the long run. Thirdly, of course, is to go the I mean the shift from bituminous lubricants to synthetics, where some of the chemicals that are used in the formulations are altered. Those that have negative effect, negative consequences to the environment are gradually eliminated. Synthetics then become very critical because you are able to curate your lubricant to the kind of properties that you need, and these properties, one of course, will be driven by the need for protection of the environment. So technology becomes very central in terms of our industry contribution to carbon emissions, and reduction of carbon footprint in the world. So yes, technology will continue to influence the kind of lubricants that we make, and it is doing that. And so maybe going forward, we're going to see a ramp up in the kind of lubricants, the technologies, the base oils that will be used in the manufacture of these lubricants. James.
Awesome. So maybe the last question now. Looking ahead, what is your vision as LAAPSA for Africa's lubrication ecosystem over the next decade? What can we look forward?
So one, of course, is making these new solutions available to customers. So yes, we could have nice high performance lubricants sitting somewhere in, say, Nairobi, in Argentina, in all those places, but they are required in deep places like in Congo, places like in, say, Madagascar, like we are starting to do business there. So one of the things that we are looking to do is to make these products available to clients just within reach. As they get this knowledge, as they get to hear and understand why they need to move to this direction, then they don't wonder, I mean, where then do we get these solutions? So one of the things that we aim to do is to be present in every country in Africa, probably, well, in sub-Saharan Africa in the next 5 years. And of course, we make this possible through partnerships, through local partnerships, so that then we develop capacity locally. And once the capacity is developed, we just come in to support. I mean, we have support through the global office. But as we develop capacity, then this capacity will be available to plants within the respective countries, and that we then we contribute to to the objectives of many of the organizations in terms of improving reliability of their plants, improving profitability, of course, for the organizations through lubrication. So that's where we see ourselves. And so in some of the countries where we are not present, we are looking out for partners. And I mean, we need to bring these products, these solutions closer to clients.
Great. So I think we're coming to the tail end. So what's your parting shot? Sam, what do you leave us with?
I think one of the there's a challenge that is posed to production teams by the finance, the finance side of the business, that they need to sweat their assets. They need to increase, without necessarily expanding their capacity, they need to generate more. And so the technical teams, the maintenance teams can contribute to these, can support the production teams in these called by the finance departments by challenging their lubricant or their lubricant suppliers, to give them the best, because this is a tool that they have within their toolbox, to be able to deliver on plant availability, on productivity. And so, I mean, their lubricant, their lubricant suppliers should not be passive partners. They should be active partners in terms of their contribution to their product, or rather plant availability. And so the kind of solutions that they need, they are suppliers must be able to make them available. If they are not able to, then the maintenance teams should look out for solutions, because these solutions are available within reach. And once they get them, then they should contribute to their overall objectives of plant availability, so that then they contribute to the overall objectives of the organizations in terms of improving their top lines, that is revenue generation for their organizations. So I think that would be my challenge to maintenance teams, technical teams, plant hands. Let's lubrication not be just a passive engagement. Let it be an active engagement with their partners. James.
Wow, that's a nice way to end. That responsibility is not only in the person who is using the lubricant, but also to the supplier.
Yeah.
We should be able to save a coin for our users of the products that they're using. I think we can end up that, and thanks so much, Richard. Thank you for the depth, the clarity, and the practicality of your insights. You've given, of course, our audience, from end users to blenders, marketers, suppliers, additive producers, a lot to reflect on and, of course, apply. To our participants, thank you for joining. And thank you also for your engagement. We hope today's session strengthens your lubrication programs, your technical decisions, and of course, your strategic decisions or directions. On behalf of Lubzin, on behalf of LAAPSA, thanks so much for being here, Mr. Richard, and also, of course, our entire team. Thank you, and we wish you a blessed day, the rest of the day, wherever you are. God bless you, and see you next time when we have the next edition of our webinar. That's in February. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Bye, James.
Bye.